All right, Brian, guys to watch out for. High school kids out of 2024. Got to start with 5-star Micah Hudson out of the Waco area here going to Texas Tech. I mean, is there anybody else who can sniff his jockstrap in this class?
Well, I mean, he's a big-time player, but he's not the only one. I love Hudson, don't get me wrong. That was an easy one. I was actually going to dodge him just because he's such a good football player. But Breedell Richardson is my guy. I've known him since he was a freshman. He went to Carrollwood Day in Tampa, going to UCF. He'll play early, very, very talented receiver, 50-50 ball guy. I also really like Jamarian Burnett going to Houston. He's from southeastern Alabama at Andalusia, 6'1", 220. I mean, that's some really nice pickup for Houston. This is a kid that can come in and play right away. I saw him play live. There are mothers that were in the stands that were very disappointed he was running over their sons. Big man, and I would not want to be that guy. Last one, and I know him as well, Walt Claire Flynn, also going to UCF, 300 pounds, moves guys against their will, SEC-level players. He will also play early at UCF.
So the Micah Hudson conversation, I know you say you wanted to dodge it, but we'll give Tech their roses here because he's one of the best recruits in Big 12 history, not just Texas Tech, Big 12.
Oh, absolutely.
Like a kid like this, is he the monster that steps on the field day one and is the best player on the team, despite there being some fifth-year guys hanging out in Lubbock?
It's possible. The only derailer for any high school kid is the same. How much of the playbook do you digest almost immediately? High school playbook, college playbook. It's just totally different. So his catch radius, his ability to stop and start, and he's a really good route runner for a young guy. You're not going to teach that. Now, can he adjust to the physicality? Can he block and learn the playbook? All those things have to come into play. The receivers all have to block now for each other in the screen game, although I'm sure they'd rather get Hudson the ball. Elite player, though. I watched about 3 or 4 of his clips a year and a half or so ago and turned off the film.
Yeah.
You just really, I'm just, okay, how good is a player? Sometimes you got to watch more. With Micah, I watched less, which is actually a good sign. He had offers from every school in the country before his junior year was over. So I'd imagine he'll be at least one of their top 5 players by the end of the year. Again, playbook is key. If he does that, they're going to throw it around. So can Micah go in there and make it happen? I hope so, because he's one of the rarest of the rare. He still had everybody coming after him, from what I was told, all the way through the process, and stuck with Tech. How many guys do you think would do that, Drake? How many guys? It's teeny tiny. Like the Georgia, USC, Michigan call, it's pretty easy to accept that phone call. He went the other direction, man. It's a cool story. Really is.
Oh, we've seen plenty. I mean, even in covering Locked On Baylor a year ago, they had 3 guys who split up to LSU, Texas A&M, and Oregon. It's like, what do? You can't. How do you compete with that? And for Hudson to be at Texas Tech is a huge win for Joey McGuire and company. But you mentioned a few more names. I mean, outside of him, is there a guy, the guy that you say, hey, a year from now, we're all going to look around and say, this is a freshman that made noise at the national level?
It's possible. I hate picking freshmen, but I mean, it could be Burnett. He's 220. When you walk up and shake his hand, he's 6'1", 220. You're like, you're in high school? Yeah. The way he was built, looks like he's in his 4th year of the NFL. So I don't know how he ended up at Houston. He was originally committed to Auburn, but hey, good for the Cougs. That's a strike one for the band, man. That's good. Breedell is a kid I know is going to play. I've seen him forever. He was a kid that Cam Newton personally would fly up for practices for 7-on-7.
That's good, right? That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's a sign. But there's so few kids that I want to project, even top 10 kids. It's hard, man. It's hard, that adjustment from high school to college. But Breedell would be the one I would pick the most because I know him and his maturity is very, very high.
Here's where I struggle, Brian, with the whole deal in talking about high school kids. How many, and I think it's still too early to tell the number, but how many of these guys that we've mentioned, these names we brought up, will still be playing for Houston, UCF, Texas Tech, TCU, whoever, in 2 years, much less 4 years? Is it so much harder to tell the trajectory of an elite high school player because of the era of NIL and portal? Because these conversations might be moot when in 3 years' time, none of these guys are still playing for the school they've committed to.
The only way some of that changes, and this is not a Big 12 problem, this is everybody, because even Georgia has kids poached. Mm-hmm. The nose guard, Bear Alexander, went from Georgia to USC. So, I mean, think about this. and I know this goes against their recent history, unless the NCAA drops the hammer, which goes against everything they stand for, because it takes money out of their own pocket, and the TV networks who really run college football. Let's not kid ourselves.
Yep.
Why in the hell wouldn't you cheat? I mean, I'm just going to go out and say it. The number of schools not cheating is very low. Do not throw arrows at your rival, because there's a really good chance the school you root for and or went to is doing the same thing. So I don't know if you can stop it. And it's just super random. Like, I'll talk to a kid at a practice, at a press conference, all gung-ho, at the end of spring ball or whatever, and then 2 days later, they're in the portal. Like, you can tell they had it lined up and they were just lying. There's no way they could have had all that. Like, the first day of the portal, they're done. Really? So there's backdoor shenanigans going on. They're getting offered money. So can you stop it? I don't think so. The only way it happens is if schools lose cash. But if they lose cash, the NCAA usually does too, and they don't like that. So, I don't see a reason it's going to change, Greg.
That's why we get an elite 25 minutes from you about recruiting. And then, will any of this conversation? I know. That's the tough part, is will any of this matter in 2 years?
It's an important question. I'm glad you asked it, because it's real. That's reality for the Big 12, especially. Like, this league is teeter-tottering. Yeah. Like, it could be a power 3. I just had to adjust to power 4 is my terminology recently. It doesn't sound right. Power 3 sounds terrible. Yeah. It does. But think about this. The state of Texas not being the center of a major conference. That would be the case if that's because Texas A&M, now in the SEC. I mean, at one point, the Southwestern Conference was all Texas schools and Arkansas. That was the only school outside the conference. It's just bizarre. What I grew up with compared to what we see now. Like, I loved Southwestern Conference football. It was great. Yeah.
I've got the Southwestern Conference banner back here because I think
it was fantastic. They had top 15 teams littered, kind of like the SEC does now. They'd have 3 or 4 teams in the top 15: SMU, Texas, Arkansas, etc. They'd all be ranked. It's changed a lot.
Those days are gone. Yeah, yeah. And it's you mentioned it, the way the ACC is going and the way that Florida State is kind of spearheading the debacle that is. There's an opportunity for if the Big 12 ponies up and poaches, or at least has its business in a row to avoid the fate of the ACC and Pac-12. There's a door there to be relevant. I think just the word relevant is where the Big 12 needs to start before we even talk Power 3, because it's a Power 2 right now. It's a Power 2 right now, and
that's reality.
And it's not close. So hopefully things stay on the positive for the Big 12. That's a big hope. Brian, if folks want to find more of your recruiting stuff, where can they go? Where's the best way to find you constantly doing this kind of work?
At FBScout_Florida on X, formerly Twitter. Everything seems to change nowadays. But I write for Auburn Daily and All Hurricanes. I help out a bunch of different sites on Locked On. It's a lot of fun, man. It is recruiting time for me. I'm actually busier right now because spring means 7-on-7 Under Armour. Got my Under Armour shirt on because I'm getting ready to go to Under Armour Atlanta, seeing prospects. So videos, photos, interviews, you name it. It's all there.
Love it. There it is. We'll have Brian on here soon again. Thank you, Brian, for joining Locked On Big 12. For those that are listening, thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Come back Monday. We'll break down Saturday's basketball and more, from the portal to the second portal thing that's about to come up here in a couple of months, and spring ball as well. This is Locked On. Thanks again, making it your first listen every single day. Dose Grande.